What would you tell that young kid hiding his Vogue under the groceries and wearing sequins in the cafeteria?
Yeah, I would say just embrace it. You can hide it, you can try to fight it, but it is what it is. You love what you love, and you might as well embrace it because there's nothing wrong with it. I mean, whether it's loving sports, whether it's loving gay cinema, whether it's loving magazines, it's like you love what you love because it's just a waste of time to not embrace who you are and what you love. It's when
No,
magic
and
starts. I'm very much myself. I'm really honestly who I am. And it's not because of some political commitment to being true to myself. I just couldn't fake it if I tried. I've
right.
tried to blend and I can't. I've tried to be normal and I just can't. And the thing is, when you sort of let all that go and just are who you really are, and whether that's a cockeyed optimist like me or maybe more of like a sourpuss pessimist, you kind of just have to be who you are. And people really sense that because people so often kind of hide who they are or really just don't let it all hang out, that I think
Yeah.
people really respond to people who are truly who they are. I think that's sort of my success.
This is Going Rogue, and I'm Jill Demling. Today's guest is Mickey Boardman, or just Mr. Mickey, the heart, soul, and sequin spirit of paper magazine for 3 decades. From a suburban Illinois kid obsessed with glamour to New York's most beloved cultural tastemaker, Mickey transformed himself and the magazine industry along the way. From the viral Kim Kardashian cover that broke the internet to countless headlines worth their weight in glitter, this advice columnist, editor extraordinaire, and champion of authenticity proves that in fashion, as in life, more is always more. Let's listen as Mr. Mickey goes rogue. Hi, Mickey.
Hi, Jill. How are you?
Good.
I love your gallery wall.
I love your place too.
Thank you. We both have very artistic gallery walls behind us.
Yes, I love it. I'm so thrilled to have you on today. You were one of the first people to reach out to me after I resigned after 20 years at Vogue,
Yeah.
saying you had an idea for me and, maybe we could work together. And your instincts have always been spot on, and introducing me to Drew gave me an invaluable opportunity
I'm so glad.
to experience firsthand what it's like to work at paper, even for just a year. It's its own thing. It's unlike anything else. Definitely
Absolutely.
unlike Vogue. So I very much appreciate that opportunity. And it is definitely a chapter of my career that I treasure, because going from where I was for 20 years and then coming into this very welcoming big hug of a magazine, it was just really inspiring. It really,
Yeah.
really, really was.
Well, it was
Yeah.
fabulous to work with you because you brought such experience and just determination, and you really are an inspiration in so many ways because of that. It's almost like flying Air France first class. It's like ruins you for everything else. It's like working with you, booking celebrities. It's like you see, okay, if you're really absolutely give it your all and like have the relationships and just won't take no for an answer, you can make anything happen. So that's great to find out. And it's also exhausting because now I know that, like
I always said that working for Anna and booking the covers, I was the kicker, but I was also moving the field goal
yeah,
farther away from myself,
yeah,
and
yeah.
but yeah, not taking no for an answer is definitely something I've known for, and I'm still trying to get yeses from 20 years ago. So,
There you go.
but I had Drew on Going Rogue recently, and I can't wait to compare your notes on the years you two worked together.
Mm.
You and Drew are solely responsible for propelling the phrase break the internet into mainstream pop culture lexicon. And that is a fact. And AI said it perfectly. The Kim Kardashian paper magazine cover, November 2014, while not the very first instance of this figurative usage, this was undeniably the moment that propelled Break the Internet into mainstream pop culture lexicon. Paper Magazine explicitly used the phrase as the title for its controversial cover, featuring Kim Kardashian, aiming to generate massive buzz. It succeeded, and the phrase became irrevocably linked with sensational, widely shared content. So there you go.
Wow. Yeah. It'll be on
So,
our
yeah.
tombstones.
Exactly. So before we get into your journey and the 3 decades of heart sequins and pure joy you've brought to the downtown scene and to the world of magazines, I need to know when and how you got the name Mr. Mickey. Did the name come before your column, Ask Mr. Mickey, or after?
Sort of during in a way, because the way my Ask Mr. Mickey column came about was before the internet, really. There was this thing called Echo, which was sort of like you would dial up on a modem, and it was kind of like a bulletin board. And it was like an online community, I guess. I don't even know really how else to describe it. And David Hershkovitz from Paper, the co-founder, was always very interested in kind of being on top of the latest technological developments. So we were the first magazine I knew of that had a website. We were very early on social media. He loved to stay on top of those things. And so this bulletin board thing would be, there were like different sections. Did a paper section, and there was like a little fashion bulletin board, a nightlife bulletin board, an art bulletin board. And part of it is our jobs. They said, can you all just go on at least once a day and post something? And I loved it. And I would do like weird fashion makeovers on like the Pope. I did like a whole Polly Mellon shtick. I did, just my usual crazy stuff.
Yeah.
And so they said, we should give you a column, but I'm not great with deadlines always. But like this thing, I would just sit down and just do it and churn it out like in no time. And it was very spontaneous and fun. So they said, we're going to give you some questions to answer, but literally we're going to give them to you. You have to sit down and do them right then. You can't get up from the chair till you're done with it. So to keep that fresh spontaneity. So we were like, well, what should the name be? And I was known for holding my pants up with a safety pin to make them tighter or loose, whatever. So I said, well, maybe like a safety pin in a dream can be the name. And Kim didn't like it. And somehow she came up with the name Ask Mr. Mickey too. So, and she loved the idea of like Mr. Blackwell, or like kind of that kind of thing of like an authority
Yes.
on something. So I think Kim was probably the one who really sort of came up with it. So then people started calling me Mr. Mickey from the column. But again, we came up with the name because the column needed a name. So, but I love it, actually. I always introduce myself as Mr. Mickey. I don't know. I think it's a fun name, and I'm glad.
Yeah. Well, when I was casting the Steve Madden campaign, it was Mr. Mickey.
Yeah.
That's who we were casting.
Absolutely. I love it.
So my prior guests have all been Vogue affiliated. So even if listeners know the Kim Kardashian cover, which I'm sure everyone does, and if they don't, I am worried about them. They might need some paper magazine history. So let me just read this little spiel, because that was the most fascinating thing for me, was really going down that paper magazine rabbit hole, because it's a phenomenon, right? Yeah. And there really should be more than just one documentary about it. It really could be some sort of masterclass. Founded in 1984 by Kim Hastreiter and David Hershkovitz, Paper Magazine quickly became the downtown New York alternative to uptown fashion glossies. Unlike magazines like Vogue, which focused on aspirational luxury, Paper captured the immediate pulse of what was happening in the clubs, on the streets, and within the art galleries. Initially as a black and white fold-out before evolving into a digital-first platform. Gaining significant cultural influence, Paper championed New York subcultures, nightlife, and emerging talent, discovering and propelling figures like Madonna and Jean-Michel Basquiat before they became household names. It consistently pushed boundaries, celebrated trailblazers and nonconformists, and truly documented the downtown scene. As Cyndi Lauper noted, it wasn't like other magazines. Its natural inclusivity was also key, with Beth Ann Hardison observing, they didn't try to be diverse because they naturally were. So Mickey, does that sound pretty accurate in a nutshell? And anything you'd add?
No, I think that's definitely it. We've always said Paper is about discovery. So we like to introduce you to people who are fabulous, who you don't know. And we also like to show you a side of people like Kim Kardashian that you think you know, but we like to show you a different side that you didn't know. I started in 1992, so there was like an 8-year rich history. I was an intern at the 8th anniversary party, like getting people VIPs cocktails and whatnot. And it was very fun and glamorous. But from the beginning, we've been interested in discovering new things. And we've always approached things sort of from a fan perspective. Like we want to say, look, this person's amazing. We want to share them with you. We don't like to cover fashion and say, this show's bad, or, oh, this collection is terrible. Like, if it's bad, we don't want to talk about it. We want to talk about the good things that are great and that we think you should know about.
Right.
I'm a Libra and I hate conflict. So that approach works very well for me.
Exactly. So, because I want to get us to your paper years, this really is kind of an ode to magazines. I'll give the Cliff Notes version of the early years of your life with a little help from my friend Claude, who thinks I'm hilarious, by the way, and very witty. He's always telling me so. And then I'll ask you some questions. So feel free to correct any misinformation, because we know misinformation is out there on the web. Okay. You were born in Skokie, Illinois, and raised in Hanover Park, a middle-class suburb with zero connection to fashion or magazines. Your dad was a pharmacist, and your mom, who had you at 20, was stylish, bold, and way ahead of her time, especially in a suburb of Chicago. To quote you, I was really lucky to have a mom who was very cool and let me be whoever I wanted to be. She wore wigs and had really great taste. You've described yourself as someone who dressed, quote, a little gay in a way that other kids didn't, and who was obsessed with TV, celebrity, and the masthead of magazines. Quote, I remember being at the supermarket when I was 10 and discovering magazines. There was this whole rack. This was the 70s, so there were thousands of magazines. I remember seeing Vogue at the checkout stand and thinking at the time, I really want to buy that. But why would a 10-year-old gay kid need to buy a woman's magazine? You were glued to Style with Elsa Clench, which I have to say, Brian Coates was glued to Style with Elsa Clench on CNN when he was 6.
Yeah.
And I had never even heard about it, but it's so funny.
Oh, it was so important. It made me who I am today. And I was actually talking about it yesterday because, again, I'm in a suburb with like strip malls and McDonald's and whatnot. But here on the weekend, I'd be seeing like the Laura Biagiotti show or Crizia or, Gianni Versace when he was at Complice. So I know so much about fashion because of Style with Elsa Clench.
It's really amazing. I have to start watching it. The old reruns. One of my favorite things you've said, I didn't know what I wanted to be, but I knew I wanted glamour. You studied Spanish at Purdue, and after graduation, you headed to New York City, where you enrolled at Parsons for fashion design without ever having taken an art class, stating, that's where I really started dressing like a freak. You created collections like Jackie O Meets Hip Hop that flopped at school but hinted at the future Mr. Mickey. Through a friend of a friend, you landed an internship at Paper in 1993. Is that correct?
1992. I started full-time in 1993.
Okay, great. And when someone quit, you were hired to work the front desk. You've said, if Paper had been a plumbing supply store, I would have become a plumber. They loved me and I blossomed. You worked your way up from intern to editorial director, becoming part of the Paper family's DNA. So before I go into questions about those formative years, anything to add to that?
I think you sort of hinted at it, but my dad was a pharmacist and a drug addict. In other news, that's a whole other story. But nobody I knew's parents worked in any sort of creative field. My most creative was a couple of ladies were Avon ladies or something like that. So it never occurred to me that you could have a job at a magazine. And again, I remember looking like when that was the Grace Mirabella era of
the beige years.
Every cover was like a face this close with of Isabella Rossellini, Kim Alexis, or Sherry Belafonte, with a chunky knit and like maybe some like hot pink like eyeliner or something like that. And I remember looking at the masthead and being like, who are these people? Which is a little bit strange maybe for a 10-year-old gay in the middle of the suburbs to be doing. But I think the first step really to like making your life be the dream that you want it to be is to figure out where you want to be. And I sort of, without thinking it, figured that out by looking at magazines and thinking like, that's where I want to get. But I didn't study journalism, or I didn't, I ended up there by accident. But I think if you know in your head where you want to go, the universe leads you there.
Or that you know it exists. Yeah. I've heard it from so many guests because I'm interviewing people that are all in this creative space, but it's a very niche group. But did they find this or did it find them? It's been very interesting because you don't know how you even saw it or what drew you to it, but
Yeah,
something did. And it's probably a combination. It found you and you found it.
I agree.
But your mom's fearless sense of style really resonated with me because my mom was also a fashion risk taker. She wore the wigs in the 70s, and I actually remember wearing one of the short curly ones as a Halloween costume. I was a caterpillar in a homemade caterpillar outfit with my mom's wig. And then in the 80s, when we moved to this conservative suburb in Massachusetts, she showed up to my first back to school night wearing electric blue leather pants with a padded shoulder, mustard yellow leather jacket, very Sheena Easton. She had the spiky
Love
hair.
it.
I
Love
was
it.
mortified at 8 years old. I mean, I was still wearing my Catholic school uniform to a public school, but now I realize how brave she was
Yeah.
just to be herself. Did you ever feel embarrassed by your mom's bold choices, or were you always inspired by the fearlessness of it?
No, I was embarrassed. And I think the same way I hated being from the suburbs. Like for a long time, I sort of thought like, oh God, I got the stork dropped me off at the wrong family. Like Babe Paley should have been my mother, someone glamorous. And then I thought one day as I was sort of walking down the street, I thought to myself, God, if I thought I was brought to the wrong family, like what did my family think when I'm named after Mickey Mantle, the baseball player? My dad loves sports. Like I'm exactly the opposite of what they hoped for and expected, like a child to be. So that sort of made me try to be more understanding and make things work. And I think that being embarrassed to be from the suburbs, for example, I love the suburbs now. I think it's fabulous, but I think you have to go through hating it and rejecting where you come from to be able to come back and appreciate it and love it in a way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's why I've never understood a lot of people I grew up with never left where we grew up. They stayed there. And I thought, I get it if you love it, but it's like, don't you want to go see the rest of the world, see what else is there? And then you can tell yourself, okay, where I started is where I belong. Like that's really the best place. Because I feel like if you never leave, it's just an accident of fate where we're born or where we grew
Right.
up and things like that. But with my mom, the funny thing is she didn't know anything about current fashion. She was very different from me about fashion, but she did what she wanted to do. And because she got married and had my brother when she was 19, had me when she was 20. So she was so young. And so she was still like dressing like a
Yeah.
young person. And she dressed us like freaks. Like we had very long hair. My first day of first grade, I had like a pink shirt with monkey heads on it and maroon pants with fish all over it. I mean, I looked like a total freak. And I, at that point, sort of just wanted to blend. So I was like, maybe we, don't have to look like such freaks. But it taught me to be an individual. And so in retrospect, I really appreciated it a lot more because she kind of just made it up in a way. Like, and I didn't even realize she was wearing wigs. Like she had a white lady afro and she wanted to get the afro, which was weird. And um, you know, cultural appropriation, but she gave the wig an afro and then tried it out and liked it. So she got a real afro in her hair. So yeah, I admire that. And I admire anyone who does their own thing fashion.
Yeah, it's personal
Yeah,
style.
yeah,
That is
exactly.
personal. Personal
Yeah,
style.
exactly. So I appreciated that a lot, even though again, it wasn't like fashion with a capital F, like she wasn't wearing the designer brands of the time or whatever.
And she just felt hot,
Yeah,
right? She felt
yeah,
great. Yeah. And that's what fashion's supposed to do. It's funny because
exactly.
sometimes it does the opposite. Sometimes you're making a statement the opposite way without wanting to. But
Totally.
yeah, I was surprised you didn't head to New York City for college like Drew did to escape the Midwestern
Yeah,
suburbs the
yeah,
first chance you could. And instead, you head to Indiana and then enrolling in Parsons without
yeah,
any background. What
yeah.
made you think you could jump into fashion school? And what was the decision to not escape the minute you're 18 and an adult and are allowed to, and then
Yeah.
go into kind of those first few weeks in New York? I'm sure you probably had visited New York before, but um,
Only once. But
only once. Wow.
honestly, I wanted to go to California or New York. I did want to go to the coasts. My dream was to go to Pepperdine, which I knew nothing about. I'd never been to California. I'd never been to
Yeah.
Malibu, but I was like, it's in Malibu. That sounds
Yep.
fabulous. It's so great. And but my parents were like, I was a little bit of a troublemaker and had some drug issues and whatnot. So my parents were like, you can go away, but not too far. Like you can't go to California, you can't go to New York. And my dad went to Purdue and my brother went to Purdue. So they felt like that was kind of a safe place where if needed, come pick me up by car if I like had a nervous breakdown or something. But then I went to my junior year in Madrid. I did a year abroad, which changed my life and made me who I am today in many ways. Came back, finished a semester early, and then went back to Madrid. Actually, and then I went for the summer to Middlebury College in Vermont to do a German intensive, and I was going to go live in Germany, but I ended up going back to Spain to teach English to save money, and then spent the following summer in Germany. I just like to go to Europe and do things like that.
Wow.
But at the time, while I was in Spain the second time, I just decided I really wanted to study fashion. That's like really what I want to do. And I told my parents, and to them, New York was like gayness, and all the stuff that they didn't understand or approve of, so that it was all sort of wrapped together. My parents later became great about me being gay, but at the time they were not that enthusiastic. I remember my dad saying, well, I hope you don't think that we're going to subsidize a lifestyle we don't approve of if you move to New York. And I was like, so don't. I'll figure it out myself. And they were so rocked. And I was a little bit rocked that I would say that too, because they always subsidized everything. So that's just what I wanted to do. And I had no idea really what I was doing. We had to do this application. You had to design a little collection. You had to do all this stuff. And I had no idea what I was doing. And I actually enjoy and feel happy not knowing what I'm doing, because in a way, then you don't know what you're not supposed to do. You don't have this like very formulaic kind of idea. And so the collection I designed was all sort of women who inspired me with what they wore. So it was Mary Tyler Moore, Edie Sedgwick, Diana Vreeland, and I forget who else, but it was all kind of very editorial. They all were sort of like, thought bubbles, saying things. And it ended up some of the stuff, and I was like, they're going to laugh me out of the place because I don't really even know what I'm doing. But actually, a bunch of the pieces ended up in the best of application show. They did like a show like at the school, which was crazy. I mean, I couldn't believe it. But I was also very editorial, as I said. I would always come up with a theme, and it was more of a fashion story than a collection that was designed. Like the Supremes go to Shanghai, and it was all kind of black models, wigs, and gold, silver, and bronze lame, kind of Cheongsam Chinatown dresses, which again, you can't do. It's cultural appropriation. But it wasn't even really about the clothes. Or I would do like a Las Vegas showgirl collection, and they basically just be nude, covered in glitter with a headdress. And if there's not even any clothes, I just want to do like
right. So let's back this up. So the fact that you even had all this in your head, this is like genius, by the way.
Yeah.
So as a kid, you know how we had the paper dolls? Were you doing anything like that? I know you saw the magazines, you knew they existed, you loved looking at them, but what were you doing with all of that was in your imagination?
I wasn't doing much or anything. I had all the superhero dolls just so I could have Wonder Woman. I had all of them just for that. And if female friends had dolls, I was usually too shy to ask to play with them, but I would want to play with the dolls.
Right.
Yeah. I didn't really do very much in terms of creativity, and I never thought, I'm artsy or whatever.
Oh, that's so interesting.
My sort of artistic thinking is so abstract or so editorial. I keep saying the word editorial, but
no, but it's a great way to describe it, because it's how you look at life. Editorial is how you look at what's in front of you right now. You can see it editorially, right?
But the thing also is, at the time, Parsons, which I didn't have the best experience of Parsons. I love them now, and I've spoken at the graduation, and I ended up failing a class my senior year, so didn't even finish. But there were a couple teachers who appreciated me and encouraged me. But generally, the attitude then at Parsons was they wanted to train you to be very Seventh Avenue, to be Michael Kors' assistant. And like them, Michael Kors was as radical as they wanted. Like they did not want avant-garde. They did not want crazy.
No, for sure. Yeah, Brian Coates talks about that. Bill Blass.
Yeah.
But when you went to college majoring in Spanish, what were you thinking you were going to be? Did you know?
No idea. I just knew that it would be good to speak many languages.
Yeah.
I studied French and Italian, and it's good to go to Europe. But I never really thought, okay, this is what I'm going to end up doing financially. And I just became a Spanish major because I was a psychology major. Who knows why? And then late in my sophomore year, we were picking our classes for the following year. And they said, oh, by the way, we do this junior year abroad. It's too late to join now, but whatever. So I just said, well, that sounds like it would be fun, actually. It was called the WIP program, WIP, Wisconsin, Indiana, Purdue. So those three colleges all sent kids. And like Purdue was very engineering, pharmacy, like that. It wasn't so much liberal artsy. But the other ones were, to get the 15 spaces from each of those colleges was super intense. And you had to spend the year applying and doing all this, getting interviewed and all this stuff. But for some reason that year at Purdue, they didn't even have enough applicants to fill the slots. So I went and met with them, and the whole time they were like, well, it's really too late, but there are some empty spots. So why don't we just kind of go through with it? And in the end, they're like, okay, you can come. So I ended up leaving a couple months later. And that again was just because I thought, oh, I want to go to Europe, not
Yeah.
that I thought, oh, I'm dying to study the linguistic origins of
Right.
Spanish words or anything like that. And I just loved being in Spain and I loved being in Europe, but I never really sat down and thought like, how can I monetize this or make a living? I never
Right.
very practical that way. Even when I was in Parsons, I had a couple teachers that encouraged me, but mostly they were just like, you are a freak. What are you doing? You know? And sometimes I would do something just purposely just to show them. Like I remember my big trick for that they loved was to put the vest outside the jacket. And they thought that was the most fashion revolutionary thing. And it's just the most obvious thing. Generally, I wanted to leave. And I actually said to my mother, I was like, you know what? They don't want me here. And I'm not that happy. I think I should quit. And she said, you've come this far, just stick it out. Like, what the hell? Like, you might as well finish. And at the time, I became an intern at Paper. And they loved me at Paper. Like, they loved my crazy clothes.
Yeah. How did that happen?
It happened because the second time that I lived in Madrid, someone who I became friends with, this person whose best friend came to visit, Alex Kuczynski. I don't know if you know Alex Kuczynski, who's like a writer.
Oh, yes, of course I do. The female.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, of course, of course.
She's crazy and fun. And
yeah,
she went to Barnard in New York, and one of her best friends was this woman, Wendy Gabriel, who was at the time managing editor of Paper. So when we were back in New York, Alex and I would go out at night with Wendy. And when I found out she worked at Paper, I, in the meantime, had discovered Paper, and it was my favorite magazine. I was completely obsessed with it. And I said, oh my God, I love Paper. You're so lucky to work there. And she said, oh, maybe you should be an intern. So I went and applied to be an intern. And the woman who was in charge of interns at the time was this fabulous lunatic, Maggie McCormick. The interview was so scary. I mean, she would fire questions at you like, what's the coolest club in New York? What's the last band you've seen?
Oh, that's so funny. It's so different than Anna's questions that you got fired at.
Totally. But so I got hired, and they had the experience of being at Parsons, and they were like not into who I was. Whereas at Paper, they loved me. And I think if you find a place that encourages you and supports you, that's the most important thing. That makes you want to work harder, want to do better. I started in the spring semester, then I was an intern over the summer and again in the fall. And by the summer, I would train the other interns. I kind of knew the ropes and stuff like that. So the more experience I had, the more fun things they would give me to do, like go to cover shoots. But I mean, I loved picking up garment bags. I would go to like nightclubs to pick up checks for like $100, and they would try to outsmart me. It was just all this kind of crazy stuff that I loved doing. And again, like I said, if it had been a plumbing supply place, I'd be a plumber because I just loved working there. And because I loved Paper so much, that's how I learned. Like I was the photo editor, but I hadn't studied photography, but I knew what looked right for Paper. I knew what the look of Paper was.
Well, you had the editorial eye since you were like 6 years old.
Totally. Absolutely. I just sort of always thought that way. And it's funny because when I was still in school, Wendy, my friend who was the managing editor, wanted me to interview Vanessa Paradis. We were doing a story on Vanessa Paradis, who I worshipped at the time. Like, and I worshipped all celebrities. I don't think she was married to Johnny Depp at the time, but I was like, oh my God, a French pop star, Chanel, so glamorous. Right. And I was like, I can't do it. And even I would have killed just to meet Vanessa Paradis, let alone to interview her. But I was like, I'm not a writer. I don't have a tape recorder. I don't know what to do. So I sort of talked them out of making my dream come true. And people, I think, naturally do that, which is stupid. And Kim had always said, if you can talk, you can write. And I can certainly talk. So, but
interesting.
So Wendy asked me to interview Rupert Everett, who I was also obsessed with, because he had written a book called Hello, Darling, Are You Working? He had written like a novel. And again, I tried to talk her out of it. And she said, listen, pretend you've already interviewed him. Sit down right now and write the introduction to the story, like of what you would say. And I'll read it. And if I think it's good, you have to do the story. And if I think it's bad, I'll let you off the hook. You don't have to do anything, but you have to agree to do what I say. So I wrote the introduction, and it was mostly about me, not so much about Rupert, and just stupid, whatever. And she loved it. So I skipped a half a day of studio at Parsons to go meet Rupert Everett at the Peninsula Hotel. And we like sat by the pool, and he was in like a swimsuit and a mesh tank top. And we talked about jock straps. It was like a dream come true. And I literally stopped at Nobody Beats the Wiz on the way to buy a tape recorder because I was not a real writer. And I wrote it up, and it was like 250 words, and I got paid $35. And I was like, here I am going to school where they see me coming and they cringe. They really don't want me to be there. And I could do that, or I could hang out with semi-nude celebrities and talk about jockstraps and get $35. It's like,
Right.
what am I talking about here? So that was the first thing I wrote. And then I started writing since then. And then when I failed this class my senior year, right at the same time, Maggie, who had hired me as an intern, who was crazy, like she quit one day. And Kim said, oh, we don't know what to do, because Maggie ran the office, was the party photographer, photo editor. She wrote the club, like she did a million things. They said, we don't really know what to do. Can you just answer the phones for a couple of weeks till we figure out what to do? And luckily, I had just gotten kicked out of school a couple of days before I had free time. So I started answering the phones, and that's like how I ended up being there permanently.
I mean, it's so crazy. Like, first of all, and I'm not comparing you and Drew, and you are two separate people, and he made it clear, but the parallels are pretty crazy.
Yeah.
The Midwest,
Totally.
FIT Parsons, it's crazy. But also, I would love to do some sort of documentary on where are the paper interns now, because they're probably the coolest people and the coolest jobs, because there's just something about it. A, if you want to work there, it says something. B, if they want you to work there, it says something.
100%. Yeah. We're planning to do like kind of an alumni get together, which I'll keep you posted on.
Yeah.
But they're amazing people who've been interns. Like I had a huge meeting at Burberry, and the marketing director had been an intern at paper with me back in the day. And
oh my God.
I see them everywhere. And the funny thing too is, because I had graduated and had a BA in Spanish, I had such shame issues getting kicked out of Parsons. But ironically, that was the best thing that could have happened to me, because if I hadn't gotten kicked out, I couldn't have taken the job. So in a way, it makes you sort of really look at the things that happened to you, and you think like, oh, I'm so embarrassed and so ashamed that I was kicked out of school. And again, like they keep telling me they're going to give me like an honorary degree, or they had me speak at the graduation. I've helped choose the designer of the year. They are good to me and love me and stuff like that. But I had those shame issues, which I shouldn't have had those.
No, Miley Cyrus says it best with the new album. It's really looking back at all those things that you're either ashamed of or disappointed about, or the breakups, and it all leads you to right now. You can't change anything. Like, we have to switch how we're looking at things, right?
Totally.
But you talked about working as an intern. It was funny because Drew was telling me about his early days, and you come into it. So this is what he said when he was on. He goes, some days I was literally hand delivering magazines. Some days I was doing clothes returns. Some days I was on sets. One day I was doing an event. It was like whatever you could do. I remember Mickey gave me a research assignment about fashion and uniforms. But at paper, because the offices were old, only half the office could use the internet. So from a certain time of day, one half of the office could use it, and then the other half would have to wait to use it the second half of the day. So if you were stuck in part of the office where you couldn't use the internet, then you had to wait. I couldn't do this research at the office because I needed to finish it while doing other things as an intern. So I went to the NYU library and I studied all of these things and looked up all this information. I built this whole thing out. And one day Mickey was like, I noticed that you haven't been working on the assignment. So I just wanted to check in. And Drew says, and I like pulled the file drawer out and I was like, this is all the research. Everything is done. I love the scrappiness.
Yeah.
And that everyone being the two of you, talk about it. The interning was like a highlight. You just said you loved doing garment bag, just being part of it, right?
And I remember that with Drew, and it's so funny because someone who I worked with was like, Drew is a star. This kid's a star. He's going to go far. And I was like, okay. And Drew was so stone-faced and non-emotive at the time. I was like, okay, I haven't really seen it. But so I had two giant projects that I needed to get worked on. One was the uniform thing and one was this other thing. And so I gave it one thing to Drew and one thing to this other female intern. And again, Drew didn't seem to be bothered or worried about it. And the other intern was like nonstop, like making calls, doing things, but ended up not really even getting stuff done. She just made a million calls, but never got the information or like whatever.
Right.
And it's true. I said to Drew, I was like, I noticed you haven't really been working on this. Like, what's going on? And he handed me the file with all the information done, like, and I was like, this kid's a genius. Internships have a bad name now, and I wish all internships were paid. But to me, an internship is like a 3-month to 6-month blind date where you really get to know the place you're working at. They really get to know you. They can see you're a star. Because when you interview somebody, it's like, there are people who are good test takers or good interviewers.
Yeah, I know exactly.
Necessarily like,
yep.
You don't really get to see their full magic unless they're in this.
Or the opposite. Or
Yeah,
the opposite,
absolutely.
that they
Absolutely.
are great talkers, but they can't listen. At Vogue, we had interns for a while, but assistants were in and out. Listen, magazines, it's a different world. It's not something, especially our age, that there was courses about. I didn't even know a job like mine existed, or any job. So, and it's a hustle. So, you have to be prepared.
And I'm sure even your parents, like I have friends who are stylists, and like their parents didn't even understand what a stylist is.
No.
Casting, like what you mean? Like
no.
Normal people don't get it at all.
And I was a math major. So totally.
Yeah.
But so you had been part of the original paper family and worked your way up from intern to editorial director. Yeah. Your style, your spirit, and your voice became part of the DNA. Then the internet happened. And paper had to evolve from this analog subcultural Bible to something that could survive in the digital world. Events became part of the business, branded content, the whole landscape shifted. The Break the Internet cover with Kim Kardashian in 2014 was a pop culture earthquake. It racked up 50 million views. The concept originated with you and Drew Elliott. The idea to shoot Kim with Jean-Paul Goude, the champagne on the butt, and the internet breaking hashtag. Everything about it was perfectly calibrated for the moment. Before we talk about the cover, how did you navigate that transition between the digital frontier, as it was always referred to at Condé Nast, the challenges of staying true to paper's DNA while adapting to this new world where everything had to be shareable and viral?
Yeah. As I said earlier, David Hershkovitz was always hell-bent on being on top of all the technological developments. That's why we had a website very early, and they just made me do stuff for it, which, what I write or what I do, it could be the same for the web. It could be the same for print. It could be the same for social media. It's just my shtick. Do you know what I mean? So it helps to have somebody else who understands the internet or who understands the kind of delivery mechanisms and stuff. Right. But we've always just been that way where we like to adapt and kind of, do what the next thing is.
So technology wasn't scary. Welcome.
And again, as I said, I like being in a place where I don't know what the hell I'm doing. So I'm really fine. Even now with TikTok or whatever it is, I don't know what I'm doing, but I just wing it and make it work. But it's also important to have young people around you or have people who understand technology, because we help each other. Like if we're like, what we do could be great for those people, and what those people do could be great to help us adapt to the world.
No, and that's important. That is something key to paper that I noticed. You surrounded yourself with voices of now. The reader was in the office.
Yeah.
And you trusted those voices. You elevated those voices. It wasn't because I'm older, I know more. When I was talking to Drew, he went around the room. Everyone had to share.
Yeah.
Their voices were important. Their voices had to be heard. It was vital to hear everyone's perspective. Some people, it's all about, I have more experience, I know better. But no, by having the community all contribute, then you're speaking to as diverse a group of readers as the people in the room. And I think.
And there are things I know tons about, and many of them are not very much needed. Like I love soap operas. I know everything about soap operas.
I have to tell you something really quickly, because this is right about this. So I Googled, what does Mickey Boardman write about? And what popped up is, Mickey writes about fashion and pulp culture, and his favorite things to write about include soap operas and royal history, particularly the grandchildren of Queen Victoria.
Exactly. Well, again, not very marketable skills, but I really know those things. And at the same time, I know what I don't know, and I don't know who's cool musically. I mean, I love Dua Lipa, but whatever, So
the up and comer, who's the next?
Yeah, there have always been people at paper who know music, and you have to know who those people are, and you have to trust them to kind of do their thing.
Right.
think that it's not only important for you to know what you know, it's important for you to know what you don't know.
Exactly.
So I think it's important to, yeah, surround yourself with the people who know that and to be able to gauge what works and what doesn't, but not that it's all like my opinion on things, because the stuff I'm interested in are things that other people are not interested in. So
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, they're like, you can take soap operas and
Yeah.
royals.
Totally.
So now take us back to that moment with Break the Internet. So
Yeah.
obviously a lot's been written about this, but nothing's been written about how you came up with the idea. Now that I know things that you did at Parsons, I mean, of course, why wouldn't that be
Yeah.
the idea? But Drew told his version of that famous
Yeah.
smoke break when he said,
Yeah.
Mickey, it'll break the internet. And you
Yeah.
responded, break the internet. That's such a funny name. What if we do a separate issue that's only about breaking the internet? So how did that conversation unfold? There's different things in like the New York Times where it's like every time Drew went to get a cigarette, then you'd grab your bag. And it's
Yeah.
just so funny
We
that
had-
you
and
two
I
just, your minds together.
totally.
You
And I
know.
loathe smoking, but we would have best meetings when he was having a smoke break because it's where he would be focused, and otherwise people would be like,
Of course.
you
Yeah.
know. So the thing is, Drew had left paper a couple of times. Drew
Right.
is a Taurus. I don't know if this is a Taurus thing. He likes dramatic changes. He's just now moving to Milan for Kiko Milan.
Yeah, I know.
But he had moved to LA and all this. He broke up with his boyfriend, quit his job, and moved to LA. Didn't end up liking LA and was going to move back to New York. And he was going to take new clients as well, in addition to working at the place he worked, which was called, it was
The
that
audience, right?
The Audience, exactly.
Yeah.
So Kim and David and I were talking, and we were saying how Paper's 30th anniversary was coming up, and we were saying how like we're all so busy just putting out fires of what's going on now. It would be amazing to have someone whose only thing was to think about the 30th anniversary and special things and whatnot, because that shit takes time,
Yeah.
effort. I just talked to Drew and I said, he's moving back to New York and he's allowed to have other clients. Maybe he would want to like take Paper on as a client, because who else knows Paper better than Drew? And they were like, oh yeah, Drew would be fabulous, but there's no way he would want to do it. So I called him and just said, is there any way you'd want to do this? He said, I would love to come back, but I would only come back if I could take over everything and redo the whole magazine. So I was
That's
like,
what he was talking about when he said the rebrand. I didn't know he actually came in and said, we're rebranding.
Yeah. He'd seen the September issue, so that sort of warped his idea of what a magazine could be or should be. So he came back, it was figured out. And for the 30th anniversary, we were going to have a whole new look. And he became a partner of Kim and David.
And that was originally going to be September, right? The rebrand. Right.
Correct.
Okay.
So, and literally we worked for months, which is absolutely unlike us. In the past, we would finish an issue and then we'd be like, oh my God, what do we do now for next month? You know what I mean?
Right. I was there. I know.
Yeah, we would plan a little bit, but it was very that. And so when Drew came back, it was like maybe 6 months before or something. But we spent like every day talking about ideas. Okay, we want to do this Road Arte Star Wars thing, but we should shoot it at Star Wars Ranch. We should. Then there was negotiations with George Lucas. Who knows? George Lucas,
God.
On and on. And we put together like decks and decks of all the stories that we wanted to do. And Drew wanted his first cover to have Kim Kardashian on the cover. So we reached out to Kim's people, and we had shot her and Chloe before, and it was Ina Tracy Okas at the time.
Yeah.
Who I love. So we reached out to her, and Drew, I think, had the idea of doing John Paul Good, because we loved him and worked with him a bunch of times. And we didn't have the exact plan of what it would be. We just knew that it would be John Paul Good shooting Kim Kardashian. And Kim said yes. Ina and Kim said yes. And then meanwhile, flash forward, once all these decks were done, Drew and I sat with Kim and went through them and were like, this is what we want the September issue to be. It's the new look. It's the whatever. And Kim loved the whole thing. And she said, I love the whole thing. It's all fabulous, but I don't think we should have Kim Kardashian on the cover for the anniversary. She loves Kim Kardashian. She loves the show. She loves reality, all that stuff. But she said, it's our anniversary. So I just feel like it should be somebody who is more ingrained in the history or whatever.
Yeah.
And so.
But you had already locked
we had already,
because that was you.
Told her it was happening.
That was you.
Yes. And look, we're working ahead. We're ahead of the curve. We're not going to be behind schedule. So that's why we walked out of Kim's office downstairs. Drew was smoking nervously.
Yeah.
And I was like, we already asked her, like, what can we do? Like, she said yes. Like, I can't weasel out of this.
Yeah.
That's when Drew, exactly as you read earlier, he said, if we have Kim Kardashian on the cover, it will break the internet. And I said, break the internet. I'd never even maybe heard that expression.
Yeah.
And I was thinking that we're always trying to break the internet, like every issue, but you sort of acted like you weren't. But that's all anybody wants.
Right. You weren't going to say it because what if it didn't?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. But also I was like, well, why don't we just embrace it? And like, we are trying to break the internet and we'll just do a separate issue. So Drew put out a cigarette. We went upstairs and said to Kim Hastrader, okay, we've got it. We're going to do Kim K on the different issue. And it's going to be break the internet. And it's going to be all about making these crazy things that people go crazy for on the internet. And she's like, I love it. It sounds like a fabulous art project. We could launch it at Art Basel. And so I just called Ina and was like, do you mind if we do a different issue? And it's not really a fashion issue. It's more of like an art issue. She's like, whatever, I love it. And John Paul, when we had said to him, what would you do with Kim? He had the idea of recreating his champagne thing. And we were like, we're obsessed. We love it. Fabulous. And it's funny, Carlene Surf to Dudziel, I remember seeing her after it came out. She said, I saw the cover and I was like, these fucking people who are ripping off John Paul Good, who do they think they are? And then she looked and saw that it was John Paul Good and she was like, hallelujah, it's amazing. But
I still go back to the balls to call it break the internet. How about if it didn't? I mean, I guess you guys don't think like that.
Well, it's funny because then break the internet issue was November for a few years after that. And there were times when we were like, we can't call this break the internet. It's not that level. So we called it Fandemonium or we called it some other thing. Yeah, because it's.
Well, that's the
bar
field goal.
Was set so high.
Yes. And when I was there, we got close to breaking. We had those two covers, the Pete Davidson as Ken and BTS. But
totally.
I mean, that's a lot of pressure. I was really like, oh my God. And of course, even how you're just talking, it's clear to everyone listening what Drew was like. Lots of ideas and no idea was impossible in his mind. It was like, no, go get it. And I was like, it was a challenge because I usually like to manage expectations as much as I can. But he was like, let's get Diana Ross in a Supreme t-shirt. And I was just like, what? Of course I wanted
that in the back of my head. That's an idea that has to happen.
Should I not put it out there? Now it's clear it's your idea.
Yes. And I think it is a lot of pressure to do that every month. That's why it's better to do it like every couple of months or whatever it is. But also that's how the magic happens. I've been thinking also a lot about today. Recently, I saw a video clip of Nicki Minaj, who I'm sure you've worked with repeatedly, and I have as well. And she was talking about that famous clip where she's like, well, if I had accepted the pickle juice, I'd be drinking pickle juice right now. When we shot her for Break the Internet, Menage a Trois, it was one of the most traumatic editorial experiences I've ever had, the actual shoot itself. It was 24 hours of shoot in Miami with...
Wait, so tell us about it.
Because Nicki is very demanding and has set a very high standard. So if something wasn't good enough, she would say it. And it was like exhausting, but at the same time, the cover ended up being amazing and completely fabulous. And I loved it. And if she'd accepted the pickle juice, we'd all be drinking pickle juice now. So in retrospect, I am torn now because there are things that, like the Kim K was a dream. She was a dream. She was on time. He was a dream. The only challenge with that was John Paul had a different idea to do for Inside, which we ended up not using. But otherwise, we just had the champagne. We were like, well, can you do some extra shots for Inside? And he's not like that. He has to have it all planned out and mapped and drawn. So when she came and was like, whatever you want, let's stay all night. We'll do whatever you want. He said, well, maybe we can have you do a little striptease with this dress. And she was like, I love it. Fine, great. Because otherwise we were sort of worried, like, what the fuck is the inside of the magazine? We didn't have a plan. So that was like snatched from the clutches of death. But with Nicki, that was challenging. Like I said, we were on set for 24 hours.
But you weren't planning on being on set for 24 hours.
We weren't planning on it, no. But the thing is, because it was a three-way menage a trois, she was 3 characters and like 5 or 6 setups. So we had to do character 1 with stand-in. So we had to shoot setup. So really there were a million setups is the problem. And you have to change hair and makeup and all that kind of stuff. But the thing is, if you don't get the 3rd character and all the setups, you got nothing. You know what I mean?
And you guys don't have big budgets. You have never had anything close. Because Grace talks a lot about how much we used to have the early years when we did Ben Stiller in the Above the Seine in a clear ball. It was crazy, the budget. And you guys don't have that.
that was our most expensive shoot we'd ever done until Rihanna. Although I don't know the more recent years, I don't know the budgets of those. But also part of Drew coming was that he didn't care how much it cost as long as he got what he wanted. But still, the budgets compared to the Glory days, counting asked for nothing. But to us, we were spending lots of money. It's like that expression, I don't care how choppy the water is, just bring home the boat. If you get a great cover, who cares in the end if it was like a challenge,
exactly,
it was difficult or whatever it was, or
no,
like
exactly.
getting BTS, there were many bumps in the road along that way, but it's like it was fabulous.
No, and I've been doing it so long now that I really have gotten to a place of just knowing it's going to work out. Not to say there's no sleepless nights or extra grays, but it works out how it's supposed to work out. And once you've done it long enough and you have that track record of that's what happens. And sometimes it doesn't work out how you planned, but it's exactly how it should have. So when that cover got so much coverage and it's still in Wikipedia, it's cultural history. Did you guys get a huge pat on the back? And I mean, it definitely made both of you, I think, household names.
For paper in general, my parents were watching ESPN and they showed the cover on it. So it was famous in a way that like, I was like, okay, now my parents can tell their friends where I work and they're not embarrassed. People will kind of understand what it is. So, and I'm fine with it being on my tombstone because I think it's an amazing thing. And life goes on though, too, sort of like it was fun and exciting. Because again, at the time before that, like if we had 200 people on our site, we'd be like, oh my God, that's amazing. And we had like 75,000 people for a month on the site at the time. So we're very happy about it. And I'm happy that it was Kim K and she was such a dream to work. The whole thing, everything about it was really positive and great. So I was very happy about it.
Yeah. And is there anyone that you're dying to interview that you haven't yet or that you hope to?
I mean, again, soap operas and royal history, but I'd love to do something again with Dolly Parton. We shot Dolly Parton with David LaChapelle years ago, but she is an angel from heaven to me. And we haven't done anything with Taylor Swift, although we've met with her and talked with her about it. And I think she's amazing in general. In the Drew years, you had to do something radically different to the person.
Right.
I'm now in a place where like Ariana Grande wants to do her hair and makeup the way she does her hair and makeup. She doesn't want to do something.
And she has to have a mirror in front of her while she's
you got to let her do her thing. I don't think that Taylor wants to do something different. So I'm at this place where I love to do something fun and wild. And I think that's what gets people's attention and gets traffic and stuff like that. But at the same time, you got to cooperate with the person and understand that they need to be within their comfort zone.
Yeah. And Drew always said he wants that paper cover to be the best experience they've ever had, to be their favorite cover. Nowadays, it's much harder to get talent to do anything outside of their comfort zone. There are some that always will, that won't do anything twice, like a Rihanna, like a Gaga. They won't agree until they see the idea, because that's what gets them excited. But
that's the dream to me. Those are challenges too, but we've shot Rihanna, we've shot Gaga, and they're fabulous. It's fun when someone wants to go on that journey with you and stuff like that. But I think we've shot most of the people that I really like. In terms of celebrities, the most excited I got about a celebrity was when we were shooting Duran Duran and Yasmin Laban just showed up randomly, like to visit the husband. And I was totally freaking out. And Simon Laban was like, are you okay? And I was like, oh my God, I'm obsessed with your wife. I had no idea she was coming. I'm freaking out. And he was like, my wife? And I was like, she's like one of the greatest models of all time. Like, are you crazy? And he was like, please tell her because she won't believe that like you're so excited.
Oh my God. One of Duran Duran's on Raya. He keeps popping up.
Oh, really? And I love Broadway. I mean, me and your old boss, Anna, love Broadway.
Yeah.
I love doing those Broadway types. We did Madonna, we did Gaga, we did Cher, we've done like the great divas.
Grace Jones. I mean, the history. That's why I still wanted you guys to do the wallpaper or the wrapping paper. Your mission statement of breaking people, you did. All these covers, even when I was there, Bad Bunny, it was like someone in that room came up with that. It was before he looks totally different, but that digital cover, same with Little Nas. Paper is their first stop. We were talking about how Lizzo would come into the office and, I just remembered that story I read about like a mouse trap. Was it really... Were the offices
it was a rat. It was a rat? Yeah.
Oh,
because
my
there was
God.
a Blimpies underneath paper, and they were putting a new restaurant, and they had to cut a hole in the floor and whatever. And so I opened the office every morning, And the landlord put down glue traps. And so there were rats coming through this hole in the floor. And yeah, and it was the day that our new receptionist started. And I remember I was answering the phones and I had said to Kim, like, maybe I shouldn't answer the phones anymore. And she was like, well, how do we get a receptionist? Like, do we put an ad in the paper? Like, how do you hire a receptionist? Like, we had no idea.
Yeah.
And a couple weeks later, or maybe again, we conjured it. Someone called and said, hi, who can I fax a resume to for the receptionist? And I put her on hold and I ran over to Kim's desk. I said, oh my God, someone's on the phone who wants to send a resume to be a receptionist. She's like, oh my God, have them send it in. Oh my God. And so we hired her and it turned out to be amazing. And she ended up later writing the club column. Lori Caval was her name. And but her first day of work was the day that like a rat was stuck in the glue trap, wedged in something. So I had to like go deal with that. And it's funny, she said later, she was worried that like what she was wearing was too casual. And here I come running in and like basically in a clown suit, like wrestling rats in the back. Like,
oh my God. I know. Well, when I first came in to talk to Drew after we had lunch, he's like, you know, you don't have to dress up here. I wear a hoodie every day. And I was like, this place is amazing. But it's true. You don't know. And that just means like you can be yourself. It doesn't mean you don't have to dress for work. It's like dress how you feel comfortable inside and out. Yes. Okay, so let's look back. When you look back at your journey from that suburban kid in Hanover Park to becoming this beloved figure in New York's creative scene, what are your most proudest moments?
I think I'm most proud that people seem to have good things to say about me. Like if friends say like, oh, I met this person who knows you. And they said, oh, we love Mickey or he's whatever. I sort of would like to be remembered as a good person who's fun to work with or easy to get along with. I'm working now also with Playgirl as creative director on the side from paper. And we just did a big thing with Bridget Everett, whom I love. And so I just love celebrating people who I think are underappreciated,
yes,
are super talented, but who are,
yes,
I find incredible. Throughout the years, we've done a bunch of those, lots and lots of those kinds of people. I used to work with this guy, Tom Murrin, who was sort of our way off Broadway person. He first wrote about Amy Sedaris and also Bridget Everett and like millions of people. He first wrote about Amy Poehler when she was in that comedy troupe that she was in, Bright Citizens Brigade. Yeah. Write about millions of those kinds of people in a very funny way too. He grew up in Hollywood. His father was Howard Hughes' accountant and like sidekick best friend. So he had the craziest stories about movie stars and growing up in Hollywood. And he was a lawyer and had an affair with Ava Gardner when he was like 20 and she was like much older.
Oh my God.
He then later became like an avant-garde theater person. He wrote theater and was a performance artist. And for a while, he was also Leonardo DiCaprio's babysitter. He died a few years ago and he was just an amazing person. And one of my first special projects when paper came back after it had closed for a while was to do a thing about performance and actors and Broadway and theater and stuff. And I was thinking of Tom. I was like, we have to find some real out there kind of nutty avant-garde people. And we always joke at paper, we treat nobody's like celebrities and celebrities like nobodies or like regular people.
Yeah.
So I love that. And I think people can depend on us to shine a light on those kinds of talents. So I'm very proud of that. And because I feel like it's a job that is important to do and not that many people do it. Yeah.
Absolutely. No, totally true. And what would you tell that young kid hiding his Vogue under the groceries and wearing sequins in the cafeteria?
Yeah, I would say just embrace it. You can hide it, you can try to fight it, but it is what it is. You love what you love, and you might as well embrace it because there's nothing wrong with it, whether it's loving sports, whether it's loving gay cinema, whether it's loving magazines. You love what you love. I think you just have to, because it's just a waste of time to not embrace who you are and what you love. So
right. No,
magic starts.
And it's hard. And when I texted you the other day, I just really woke up thinking about like picturing you at that age. And it's so hard to see beyond what you're feeling right then, especially for young people. We were so lucky to not have social media, but it's one thing to look back, right? But to be able to empower these kids who are feeling other, that it is going to be okay. You know, and I think you're an important voice. I think Paper is an incredibly important magazine for just that, for those kids.
Yeah.
To know that they might not have someone like them who understands them, who looks like them in their school right now or in their town, but they exist. Here we are. Just graduate and get here.
Yeah.
There's an internship for you. You know?
Totally, totally. And I often wonder though, because it's kind of like us with our parents. I don't know how your relationship with your parents was in the sense that I always try to tell young people, don't do that. You trust me, you'll regret it. But they think, oh, old people don't know anything. Oh, my mother doesn't know anything.
Are we old?
You know,
we're not old.
Well, we're not. No, we're not.
Yes, we are.
We're not old.
I know.
It's
we're
like,
old.
meanwhile, I woke up one day and realized everything my mother told me was true. Like everything she warned me about, that guy's bad news, he was bad news, but I didn't want to listen.
Right.
You think, what does my mom know? She doesn't know anything.
Yeah.
So I wish that there could be some way that we could help young people learn from our mistakes, but maybe they have to learn from doing it themselves, because that's how you really learn, is when you make a mistake on your own. But yeah, I wonder.
I think someone like you inspiring people, I think it's so amazing how much you share of yourself on social media. And that's what's important. It's telling them about yourself, not telling them not to do something, but it's just a cautionary tale.
Yeah.
Like you're lucky to be where you are right now. Yeah. And if they can skip over that time period that was rough just by hearing you speak about it, that's kind of the beware sign, is just hearing how it can happen to you, or here's how you can avoid just feeling pain for a certain amount of time, and it's in your control. So you've said your superpower is positivity. What else do you think has made you so successful and so beloved in this industry? I think just hearing you for the past hour says it all, but in your words.
Well, I think I'm very much myself. I'm really honestly who I am. And it's not because of some political commitment to being true to myself. I just couldn't fake it if I tried. I've tried to blend and I can't. I've tried to be normal and I just can't. And the thing is, when you sort of let all that go and just are who you really are, and whether that's a cockeyed optimist like me, or maybe more of like a sourpuss pessimist, you just have to be who you are. And people really sense that, because people so often kind of hide who they are, or really just don't let it all hang out, that I think people really respond to people who are truly who they are. So I think that's sort of my success. And I also honestly am excited to meet everybody. I was just saying to somebody, the paper's been doing this series of gay pride dinners. And every time you go, it's sort of like, do I got to go to another dinner? Do I have to sit for 3 more hours?
I'm tired.
Who go out all the time. People cannot understand that we're like, I just want to stay home and sit on my couch and eat a lean cuisine and watch.
Yep, exactly.
But every time I go, I always end up sitting next to someone who I didn't expect to. Turns out to be fascinating. I learn something new or have the best talk. And I love to meet all kinds of people. People always surprise me. And I just think we're so lucky to be able to be in New York, or to be in Paris, or to be in LA, wherever, and to meet the kind of people that we do, whether it's people we admire or people who we think are talented, or just nice, fun, interesting people.
Yeah, being surrounded by creatives, like doing this podcast, it's like we're just so lucky that we're surrounded by these incredible people. And it's only been since I've been away from it long enough, especially at Vogue, all those incredible shoots, and the PTSD is kind of worn off, and I can actually appreciate it. I'm not in the middle hoping Rihanna's not 24 hours late instead of 20, or, all the stress where you can't really be present and really take in, wow, look the magic that's happening right now. And we are very lucky to do what we do. And everyone else is really lucky that we do it. You know what I mean? Is there a reason, this just came to me, that it must be because you don't want to be editor-in-chief or at that position? Because you'd be the natural,
it's a lot of responsibility. And I'm not a Scorpio, which I think Scorpios are great editor-in-chief. I love what I'm doing. I kind of love to do my thing and be help wherever I can. I don't need necessarily the title of being in charge, because although maybe I should, who knows, maybe I'm stupid for doing it, but I just feel like there's a lot of responsibility that comes with it that I don't really want to have that responsibility. I kind of want to have my areas of things and find out where I can work in my soap operas and my role.
Right. Well, I guess it's kind of like Michelle Obama, right? If we need her in 3 years, she's going to have to do it. If they need you, you will
If called
You'll
upon,
run
I will
it.
serve.
You'll run it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe it's the soap opera lover in me, or I love like an ensemble TV show.
Yeah.
I think everyone should be a star. Like at Vogue, Anna's a star, but Sally Singer's a star, and Grace
Yeah.
Coddington's a star, and Mark Holgate's a star. I like to sort of uplift everybody.
Yeah, and you can
everybody
run
in
it
the
that
spotlight.
way. Yeah,
But
you can run it that way.
Not everybody wants to be in the spotlight, which I think people need to get over and learn to embrace the spotlight because I don't know. I think everyone should be celebrated. And I love the idea of a whole cast of stars, not just here's the person in charge and everybody else behind the scenes is making.
Maybe you could do guest editors like each month, a different.
Yeah.
Oh, I got to call Brian. I got some
Yes.
ideas.
I love it. You got a million ideas.
So before I let you go, we always end Going Rogue with a little rapid fire.
Okay.
So it's the same 7 questions, but it's so funny. Claude came up with this on his own. He's like, I have an extra question for Mickey. I'm like, what? Who are you? No, seriously, who are you? Because I want to meet you. And he's like, I'm just AI. I'm like, no, you're not. Okay. AM or PM?
AM.
Text or talk?
Talk.
Uber or Subway?
Oh, Subway, just to be fiscally responsible, but I do love Uber.
Sweet or spicy?
Spicy.
Oh, you're sweet too.
I'm addicted to sugar though, but I love spices.
Spots or stripes?
Spots.
Top or bottom?
Top.
And the bonus question for you, wig or tiara?
Tiara.
Isn't that funny that Claude I was like, what are you?
Although I need a wig. I would probably, if I wore a tiara, I would need the wig under it to put the tiara on.
I run my outline through to just make sure my grammar's proper. And when it came out, it said, Mr. Mickey, sequins, heart, and the soul of paper. I'm like, you are good.
That's good. That's AI?
Yes. I'm like, I didn't ask for a title, but isn't that great? But it's true.
Well, thank you.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate you.
What a fabulous group of subjects to be included in. I'm honored.
It's been really fun.
And only you could. You're the thread that holds that all.
There's so many similarities, and it's heartwarming, and just learning about you all as children, and just the balls to just do it. Just to do it. And I love it. Yeah, I love it. We'll have an awesome day, and we'll speak soon.
Okay, perfect. Thanks, Jill.
Okay, bye. Okay, that's our show. Thanks for listening to Going Rogue, and be sure to like and subscribe. Today's show is produced by me and Maddie Rosenberg at Radio Free Rhinecliff with assistance from Maddie Kelly. Special thanks to David Vo for our great graphics and Taras Romanov for our epic theme music. See you next Friday.